your thing is we want to help the poorest in society. The poorest are the people that have to borrow to go to university. They're also the people that then have to work while they're at uni because the loans won't cover the cost of the university. I was the same. It's like it paid for my accommodation. If I wanted to eat, I still had to get a job. Do you think that was a good decision? Do you think it's worked out?
Well, and I have to, first of all, I completely take responsibility. I wrote this book, The Pinch. I've had the first edition of The Pinch came out, and then I go into the coalition government as Universities and Science Minister, and as Universities Minister, then put up the fees and the loans. So I have to tackle that head on. I think in the circumstances, I kept on battling to get across the message. This student loan is not like a credit card debt or an overdraft. And it's paid back at 9% on your earnings. Now, the latest figure is above about £25,000 a year. So it is not when you think about how much that means for someone earning £30,000 a year, which is kind of where a graduate on average gets to by the time they're age 30. No, it is not shockingly over expensive. I mean, we're talking about perhaps £75 or so a month. So I tried to make, and we increased the repayment threshold. So it should not be a big slice of your income as a graduate. And of course, a lot of parents say, but the 50,000 debt or the 30,000 of debt, that's taken into account by the mortgage lender. It's not. I did have these conversations with the mortgage lenders before we did it, and they regard it as a fixed outgoing. They treat it like income
graduate tax.
Yeah, they don't say that's a 50,000 in your overdraft, which is 50,000 lower mortgage you take out. So it's a fixed outgoing. So for those reasons, I do think in the circumstances when we were having to reduce public spending, and there are lots of taxpayers who earn less than graduates, I think it's a defensible thing to do.
I will stand by you there and say that the thing that people need to understand is it's not how much you owe, it's how much you pay, because of the fact that the debt is wiped at the end.
Yeah.
And it's only those who end up with good jobs who end up paying a lot.
Yeah.
And people who good jobs, I hate that term, sorry. People, high paid jobs, what is a good job? You know, you can be a bin man, you're doing a great service. But if you end up being a bin man and you end up on lower pay, you won't even potentially pay back the amount for the education. So, but people just see the headline figure, don't they?
Yeah. And if you think, so I think for the taxpayer, I think the deal is if you end up in a well-paid job, you'll pay back. But the taxpayers will probably end up paying for about a quarter of the cost of higher education. And saying the way we'll divvy it up is that the graduates who end up in the well-paid jobs will pay. But if for whatever reason you don't, the taxpayers will pay and we'll write it off. And that's about 25%. That seems to me to be a fair deal.
It is, to be fair. It's just when you're a graduate and you get your first job, you're like, yay, I got my first paycheck. Then you're like, national insurance, employee contribution, pension contribution, and then student loan. You're like, where's all my money gone? So, and then you got to pay rent, and then you're just like, I'm left with like nothing at this. So it's just like another line on your pay slip that's just
that's
annoying.
what people don't understand.
Yeah.
They I think my mum told me to go to university because she was part of a generation where if you went to university, you were made. My generation, everyone went to university, and that piece of paper holds not that much weight, it feels, in the job market. And I know, like, if you're a top graduate at a top university, amazing. But I do worry that a lot of people go, let's just go uni and have a 3-year piss up. Yeah. And then you end up, because I was 18, I was irresponsible. That's what I went to Durham as well, which is a good uni, right? It was,
we graduated in the credit crunch, and then my second degree I graduated in lockdown. And even though Durham was a good university, so many of my classmates ended up working in like pubs, Deliveroo, like just all these jobs, waitresses, because there were no jobs when we graduated. So you spend all that money, you graduate, you're like, I got a degree, I got a B, I got a first, second, whatever, and then you can't get a job because we're in lockdown.
And I know lockdown was tough,
but
this is quite dangerous stuff, because the fact is, and I follow the evidence and look into it very closely, the graduates do still, on average, earn significantly more than non-graduates. And also, although certainly, especially early on, you may well be trying out different jobs, you may have internships, sometimes unpaid internships where they bloody well should be paying the minimum wage. We know all that. But your long-run route is one which is better for your earnings and job prospects than, sadly, for people who are not graduates. And I think the media coverage about going to university has become too negative. We're now at the position where by the age of 25, 40% of young people who did not go to university regret it. They've 40% regret. Whereas if you ask the people who went to university by that age, 8% regret that they went to university.
8.
Yeah. So what graduates tend to regret is the course they chose. And looking back, because of this early specialization in England, they may well think, I wish I'd done a different subject. Not that many say, I just wish I'd not gone. It's the real problem, the much bigger proportion, is the non-graduates who say, looking back, I can see now from what my friends who went to university are doing, I wish I had gone as well. So it is still quite a good thing for young people to do. And they don't, in this system, they don't have to pay up front.
Yeah, I think the one thing is that a lot of jobs require an university education. So there's a barrier there, isn't there? There's, it's a way to exclude people, isn't it? They look at CVs and go, well, you've got a university education, you haven't. It's like a screening process. You need at least a 2-1 to apply for this job, this kind of chat. So I'm not surprised that they end up, because the better jobs have stricter requirements. But I do think it's kind of like a chicken and egg situation where you have to get the degree to get the job. And I wonder if there was a better place where if they said to me, Damien, don't go uni, go traveling for a couple of years and you'll have a better time. And when you come back, you can get an apprenticeship and go through this program. Because I worked in sales and everyone around me, the best salespeople had just been there longer. They didn't have educations and they're earning loads of money,
Yeah, but the interesting thing is if you look at degree apprenticeships, for example, which you've got very fashionable, if you look at them, you find they are a big charge on the apprenticeship levy. That's another fixed pot of money, the money that's collected from employers for training. And so people going on degree apprenticeships who tend to be older are growing, and the number of people aged 16 or 18 on level 2 or level 3 apprenticeships is falling. So we are taking the resource that should have gone to a rather different group. And I have to say, we monitor very closely opportunity and fair access for going to university in a way that's not done for apprenticeships. And people going to university compared with people doing the same subject as the degree apprenticeships are more white, more male, are less likely to have been on free school meals. Universities are actually more open and accessible than degree apprenticeships are.
The hardest thing I found with university, coming from a background where it's just me and my mother, like we lived in inner city Birmingham. I went to Durham and it was my first exposure ever to kind of, oh shit, people have got money. Like I thought my mate Wazim, his dad had like a 10-year-old Beamer. I was like, he's rich. I got there and there was kids with like brand new Beamers. And I was like, whoa. Yeah. But anyway, I wasn't trained in the art of university. Right. I didn't understand that I needed to get a work experience before I went. I didn't really know anything about the game. I just thought, oh, if I turn up and I do the education, I'll get a job. And I wasn't, polished, as they might call it,
But you don't have to be. And I think you've just made part of the case for university. It is where you meet a much wider mix of people.
I agree.
And actually another thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, lucky you got to meet me.
That's because you guys met at university.
We met at Durham, I loved uni.
Yeah.
I went twice because I loved it so much.
Yeah, now I employ him.
Yeah.
So can I get some defined contributions? Yeah. Can I get some contributions to my pension, mate?
Yeah, you need to define the benefit to me first. That was a clip from our full-length conversation with Lord David Willits. He's the president of the Resolution Foundation. You can watch the full interview right here.